What's happening, everyone? Steve here, Cars with Steve, and today we're taking a quick look at the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport Outer Banks. If you're looking for more of an in-depth look, how does the Sync 3 system work? How do you use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay? What are the cargo dimensions? Take a look down in the description below for that more in-depth look at the vehicle. Before we get into it, I want to thank you guys as always for helping us support the channel. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you consider subscribing with those notifications on because I've got some really cool giveaways when I get to 5,000 subscribers. Now let's get right into it and see what the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport Outer Banks has to offer. Taking a quick peek at the key fob, I love the fact that they've got Bronco on that key fob there. And then as you can see, we've got our unlock button, lock button, remote start, our trunk release, as well as our horn or our panic button. Now, a couple things to note, you do have the capability to remote start directly through the key fob, or you can choose to remote start directly through your cell phone instead. When it comes down to power in the Ford Bronco Sport Outer Banks, now the Bronco Sport does technically have two different engine choices that are available. However, in the Outer Banks and below, there's only one engine choice available, and that's going to be the 1.5 liter turbo engine that we're looking at here. From a power perspective, this thing's got the ability to push out 181 horsepower and 190 pound-foot of torque. So really nice look. Now, as you can see there, we've got easy access to the battery, which is great if we ever need a boost or if we need to give someone a boost. We've got the ability to easily check some fluids. We've got our windshield washer fluid there, and then easy access in order to be able to check and change our oil. So really nice. I love the look of this thing though. This is the white version of the vehicle. So obviously the just Oxford white, which is a flat paint color, but it does look really sharp. Now, a few things that are going to be standard inside of the Outer Banks version of the vehicle. We do have that reverse sensing system, which is available as a default in the Outer Banks. We also do have the backup camera. So really nice there. Other standard technology inside of this thing, we do have the blind spot system. Lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot in either side of the vehicle. And then there also is that lane keeping system. So lane keeping, lane centering, which helps you keep in your lane. From a towing perspective, as you can see there, we do have a Class 2 hitch in the bottom. With the engine and this configuration in the Outer Banks, it's going to be able to tow up to 2,000 pounds. When it comes down to gas, so in this thing, as you can see there, very straightforward to get into it. It's a capless system, just insert the fuel hose and you're good to go. And a little Easter egg along the top, as you can see, we've got different Broncos there, which is really cool. And as always, we do not have the OJ edition of the Bronco. Boom, look at that, beauty. Big Bronco logo right in the front there. I absolutely love the look of it. Now, this specific Bronco does not have that front camera. In order to get the front camera, we do have to look at the Badlands edition of the vehicle, so the Badland trim level. Now, this one is the Outer Banks, and it does have the Outer Banks package on it, which is why we've got that not twin panel sunroof, which is why we've got that sunroof up along the top, and then we've got a wireless charging pad and a few other features inside of this thing. But I love it. I love the simplicity of the look. It is more of a boxier style vehicle, almost like that early 2000 version of the Escape. Now, on that note, when we take a look at the back of the vehicle, we actually have a couple different ways that we can open up this liftgate. Really nice. We've got the capability to unlock it using the fob. As you can see there, we can just lift up in order to open this thing up. But one of the nice things about the Bronco Sport is that we also have a button onto the left-hand side. So the right is going to unlock the door. The left is going to be for the glass. So we've got the ability to just open up the glass by itself, so really beneficial if we just need to get in there quickly to get a few things, or if we need to stack some wood or other things directly into the back of this thing instead. Taking a look at the cargo dimensions of this thing, so you do have the ability to fit quite a little bit of stuff in the back here. As we take a closer look inside, we do have a nice finished cargo area in the back. Lifting this up, there is a full-size spare tire, not a mini donut. This is a full-size spare. So really beneficial if you're taking this thing off-road, because if you pop a tire, it's easy to switch it out from there. Looking along the right-hand side, there is a 12-volt adapter, so our traditional cigarette lighter adapter, a few hooks in the back, and then there also is another light along the back also, so really nice. As you can see, we do have some lights, and then we do have a Bronco logo just along the back. On the left-hand side, only thing to point out is this light button. So one of the nice things about this light is that there's no cabin lighting in the back. That light switch is actually for lights along the top of the liftgate there. So really beneficial directional lighting, but watch what happens. We press the button and boom, we've got a light. So really beneficial if you're going to be doing any nighttime loading. Now, one thing I love about the Bronco Sport, look at these seats. So this is the brown seat in it. I love the look of this thing. Now, when it comes down to folding the back seats, it's very straightforward. Just along the top there, as you can see, we've got a little button. So we press that first in order to fold down the headrest. And then there's another little button there. We're just going to pull that in order to fold the seat down. So very straightforward, and it is a 60-40 split, 60% on the driver, 40% on the passenger, so we can fold them down independently if we need to open up a little bit more space for that back. Lifting this up, and then other thing to point out along the back, as you can see there, we do have the ability to pull this tab down, and we've got a few cup holders. Lifting that back up into place, other thing to point out along the back, as you can see, we've got our basic vent controls, and we've got, just along the very bottom, there's also our built-in inverter, so we can plug in a traditional wall outlet into the back of this thing. One other thing to point out, both along the driver and passenger along the back, we do have zippered pockets in order to store some extras, so I love that little touch there. Now, a few things to note about the back seat. I have the driver and passenger seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. As you can see there, I still do have a nice amount of knee room for my knees and a little bit of feet space. So if you've got people that are 6 feet tall, don't have to worry about them not being able to fit inside of this thing, because overhead I still have about 3.5 inches of head space, which is really nice. Now, one thing to consider is that this thing also does have the Outer Banks package, which does have that sunroof, but it doesn't affect the back seat spacing whatsoever. So that's really nice. Now, a couple other things to point out in the back here. Just along the side, we've got our basic window control, our handles there, and then just along the top, we also do have our holy crap handle. This is the ebony brown for the interior of the vehicle, so it's got a nice look to it. I actually kind of love the look of this brown inside of the Bronco Sport. I think it looks really sharp. But looking along the driver's side door, we do have our unlock and our lock buttons. We've got the ability to kill off power to those rear windows, adjust our side view mirrors, and then our basic window controls. Along the left-hand side there, as you can see, we've got the ability to unlock the tailgate. We've got the ability to turn on our fog lamps and then adjust what's happening with our running lamps. So we can have them off, we can have them on automatically, on all the time. And we've also got the ability to either increase or decrease the brightness of that middle screen, and then that Sync 3 screen also. As we start to move down in the Outer Banks version of the vehicle, we do have power adjustable driver passenger seat. So we've got the ability to move the seat forwards, backwards, we can adjust the backrest, and then we've also got our lumbar support. And one thing to point out, the steering wheel is telescopic and it is a manual process there, so very straightforward in order to set that up. Now, one other thing to note is that this one does have the Outer Banks package, which does have an upgraded Bang & Olufsen, so that B&O upgraded sound system. Boom, and close. Look at this look, really nice. Now let's start off at the very basics with the design and the styling of this thing. So I love what Ford has done with the Bronco Sport. It's very simple, very sleek. It's got a great look to it. As we start to move over to the side, we've got our Sync 3 screen. So this does have the ability to support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. As of right now, it is wired. In Sync 4, which hopefully will come out in a future version of the Bronco Sport, it will be wireless, but as of right now, we are wired. Now, one thing to note is that this specific one does have built-in factory navigation. If you don't get one with factory nav, the button here would go away, but you still would have the ability to use either Google Maps, Waze, Apple Maps, whatever their case may be, while using I should say, either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Very straightforward look there. We've got our audio settings, basic phone, we've got basic navigation settings. From there, we've also got our apps. So certain apps will actually work through this middle screen. So you can use things like Spotify, LiveX Live, Waze directly through this middle screen. Basic vehicle settings, we have quite a few options there. In order to get more of an in-depth look, a message is going to come up on screen, or check the description down below to figure out how Sync 3 works. But basic driver assistance settings, this one does have the ability to have the adaptive cruise control system. So the adaptive cruise is essentially a set it and forget it cruise control, but it's got either the normal mode, the intelligent, or the adaptive cruise. Lane keeping system, which works 3 different ways. Way number 1, if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it'll actually shake the steering wheel, almost as if you're going over rumble pavement. Way number 2, if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, the vehicle will actually take control of the wheel and pull you back into your lane and recenter you. Way number 3 is a combination of both. So you'll get a little bit of a steering wheel shake and it'll recenter you and pull you back into your lane. From a general safety perspective, the vehicle does have pre-collision assist, which if the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's going to automatically brake for you. If for whatever reason the vehicle can't brake, evasive steering will take over, and the vehicle will take over the steering wheel in order to get you out of the way to either eliminate or minimize the impact of the collision. Moving back down, as you can see there, we've got a few other things. So the blind spot system, that's the one that's going to highlight orange in the side view mirrors there when somebody's entered the blind spot. So it's very, very useful. From there, we also do have our trailer sway control, cross traffic alert, and a few other basic safety settings. As we start to move down, we've got our auto start stop. So that's the one that's going to potentially kill power to the engine if we're stopped for a prolonged period of time. We've got the ability to turn on our four-way blinkers. And from there, we've got our basic audio settings. So we can turn our audio off, we can adjust the volume, we can tune there, we can tune under our audio settings, or we can use the voice command button on the steering wheel to change stations. As we start to move down a bit more, this button is a hotkey in order to pull up some basic audio settings. We can change between songs, play pause, and then change the screen setting as well. So we've got a basic calming screen, or we can turn it off completely from there. Moving down, we've got a little bit of a storage space underneath. From there, we do have dual zone climate control inside of the outer banks, so really, really useful if the passenger likes it a little bit warmer. As you can see there, we've got two different temperatures, but the dual zone button is activated there. Now, if you want to reset it to whatever the driver's setting is, just press that dual button again, and it'll bring you right back to default. As we look at our climate settings, we've got our rear window defrost, max windshield defroster. The air is blowing to either the windshield face or our feet. Air circulation, so all of the basics. Now this specific one, as you can see, we do have heated seats as well as a nice heated steering wheel. Now in the Outer Banks package, as you can see down there, we do have the option for a wireless charge pad that is available in the Outer Banks if you get the Outer Banks package. So you do need to have that Outer Banks package to get this wireless charger. As we start to move down, we've got a few cup holders. We've got a rotary dial in order to be able to change gears, so park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then that L, so low mode. Now one thing to note is that it is a little bit challenging to get used to this rotary dial at first, but one of the nice things about it is that if you're driving, when you've stopped, all you have to do is actually press the engine off button and it's automatically going to throw it in park for you. So that's one of the benefits of having this rotary dial instead. And as we start to move down, we've got our basic parking brake and then the auto hold setting. Auto hold, what that's going to do with it engaged is it's actually going to hold you in place if you come to a complete stop. So if you come to a stop, take your foot off the brake, the vehicle won't move when this setting is turned on. From there, we've got some basic GOAT modes, or go over all-terrain modes. As you can see there are 5 different modes in the Bronco Sport. So we've got our normal, eco, sport, and then slippery. Along the other side, you do have that sand mode. So that's going to change what happens with the vehicle. As you can see, the sand mode turn the traction control off, and different modes will do different things to different parts of the drivetrain in the vehicle. And then as you can see, we can lift that up and we've got a little storage compartment with a few USB ports. So another USB and our USB-C. Close that down from there. No other thing to point out, glove box, nothing to write home about. We do have nice, simple, clean look there. Now, one thing to point out about fan control is you can see there, we've got the ability to move this forward, left and right. We can move it up and down. And then there's also a knob there. So we would twist that in order to be able to adjust the fan. So whether or not the fan is actually turned on for each individual fan. So it's kind of neat there. Now next up, the steering wheel. Look at this. Now this one does have the Ford Copilot 360 Plus package, which does give us the adaptive cruise control system. So it's really, really nice. Now one of the benefits of using adaptive cruise is that you've got a number of different things you can do. So the adaptive cruise is essentially a set it and forget it cruise control. You set it at 100. If the vehicle in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake as well. It can take you right down to a complete stop before picking you back up to speed again. So really, really cool system. We've got the ability to either increase or decrease our volume or completely mute. Along the right hand side, basic menu buttons, so we can look through our navigation, our menu screens there, and we've got the ability to look at a basic menu. From there, we've got our ability to skip between songs or radio stations. We can hang up on a phone call, answer a phone call, or we can use our voice command button to do a few different things. The voice command button is going to give you the ability to either navigate, we can change radio stations, or we can make phone calls by pressing this button. So really, really neat. Kudos to Ford for the good look that they've given this thing. It's nice and simple. It is based on Ford's C2 platform, which is why some of the features and functionality look so similar to the Escape, because they are built on very similar platforms. But as we start to look off to the left-hand stick there, as you can see, we do have the ability to turn that lane keeping system on or off. We've got the ability to turn on our high beams from there, and then we've just got our blinkers left and right. Along the right-hand stick, now this vehicle does have rain-sensing wipers, so we've got the ability to change how sensitive it is to the rain that's hitting the windshield. And then we've also got that rear wiper, so we've got the ability to easily turn that on, so you can see it going back there. Now, as I mentioned, this one is the Outer Banks version of the vehicle, so we do have a little sunroof along the top. Not quite the twin panel that we would see in the Escape, but definitely bigger and more spacious than we would see in the EcoSport. So really, really nice look to it. As we look up overhead, as you can see, we've got our controls for the sunroof and the shade. There is a sunglasses holder, and then we've also got our control for our cabin lights. Now, one other thing to point out, in this version of the Outer Banks, we also do have an auto dimming mirror. So rather than that flip switch that we would have in order to lower the intensity of the light, the mirror itself would actually auto dim for us at night. One other thing to point out, look at this. Rear occupancy alert. Now, this is something that Ford's introduced in some 2020 vehicles, and I believe it's going to be all 2021s, a nice rear occupancy alert there. So one of the big benefits of that is if you've got kids in the back seat, really, really cool, is that we can keep that setting on for a little reminder to make sure we check our back seats. Now, you do have the option to easily turn that off directly through that Sync 3 screen if you don't want it going off all the time. Well, folks, that was a quick look at the 2021 Ford Bronco Sport Outer Banks. What did you think of it? Drop down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing with the bell notifications on, and think about sharing the video with your social network because it does help the channel grow. But until I see you guys next time, make sure you stay safe.